So, and I'll call it again a little more, maybe, so. Thank you.
March 3rd, 2025 P and Z work session meeting is called to order at 5 p.m. If you would like to make a comment during the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, there is a sign-in roster located at each entrance. Please sign in. Does anyone wish to make a comment? Please state your name, city of residence for the record, limit comment to 3 minutes, and we'll have a timer on the screen for your reference. I will now turn the meeting over to Planning and Development Director Brian Chandler.
Right. Thank you, Chair Krause, members of the commission. And my part of this is going to be very short. Of course, we just have 2 items on the agenda, but I want to leave plenty of time for Jason's presentation, responding to your request for transportation updates. It's probably a good idea to be able to provide fairly regular ones. There's a lot going on. But with the 2 items on the agenda, so we've got the plat and we've got the appeal to the I-35 overlay signage standards for McDonald's in Bel Air, the Bel Air retail center that's, north of Buc-ee's, just to the west of the Bel Air RV park. Did you have any questions about either of those cases?
I don't think so. No, sir.
Are you sure? I mean, feel free to ask now if you'd like.
Well, like my questions would be before getting all the details from
Yeah.
you guys. So the current rule allows 35 feet and they're asking for 75.
They're asking for 75. We think 75 is too tall, but we believe that they should be allowed to, an appeal of some height is warranted because they're, roughly 600 feet away from the interstate.
Mhm.
And they even did a flag test, balloon test, whatever you want to call it, to show what 50 feet would look like,
Yeah.
what 75 feet would look like. 50 seems to be adequate, and that's what we are recommending.
What are other signs in that vicinity? Like how many of those like exceed the 35 and by how much?
Yeah, no, you're great question. In fact, Shelby has a
Is that good?
slide.
Perfect.
Yes.
See, that's why I was like, I'll wait till after the presentation. 'Cause
No,
maybe they'll be
so,
answered.
so yes, she definitely has a
Okay.
slide to be able to point that out. It's a great question.
Cool.
All right. Let me turn it over to Mr. Deckman. Thank you.
Normally, I would like to invite questions and have a conversation. This case, I've got a lot of information to get through, so I'll ask if you can let me, is it not? There we go. Thank you. If you have questions, just make a note, hold it to the end, and then we'll plow through the slides, and then if we'll use the remaining time as best we can. So the commission, y'all had asked for an update on transportation projects. I'm going to start with the West Temple nightmare slide of all the work that's going on out there, all very necessary, but also we understand it does cause quite a bit of disruption. There's a couple key ones that I want to draw your attention to. Number 1, 2, and 3 up on the top right are your outer loop north. 2 phases are complete and 1 is ongoing. We've got 2 parts of the Poison Oak, that number 11. 1 is complete. There's another one that's coming. So we're going to talk about those. And then future outer loop west on number 4 and 5 down to make that ultimate connection for the outer loop around the Dodgen Loop. So this map gives you a good view of how that's going to function, that it'll give you another option from 35 back to 35 when it's really congested. So let's talk about the outer loop. This one has been a long time in the planning. The hiccup that happened with this is blamed on the railroads. Early on, it was going to be an at-grade crossing, changed to needing to be an overpass. They just, for safety, didn't want to have the vehicle and the train conflict. So recommended driving it to an overpass. They've done that. And as you see on the photo, the overpass is in progress. And these are photos that I borrowed liberally from our Public Works engineer slides. So if you go out there right now, you're probably going to see more work complete than what I'm showing you here. They are moving. Outer Loop West Phase 1, this was a grant that we got through the Clean Temple MPO. That's funded. It's, as the engineers like to say, they're blowing and going. And this will be complete by September of this year. There is a second phase that will make the ultimate connection to I-35, and we're going to hit that one at the end because that's quite a bit out, quite a ways out for now. But if you're familiar with part of Old Waco Road by Walmart and Quick Trip, it's the same cross section, the same so the shared use path on the side, just continuing to extend that further to the south. Kegley Road, everyone's favorite project, mostly Commissioner Rhodes.
Amen.
The new bridge you see there, as well as adding, the grading to expand that roadway to allow that future 3-lane. Again, similar to the completed phase up closer to Adams, they're using that 3-lane center turn lane with the sidewalk on one side, marching their way to the south. It'll tie into Midway and Charter Oak, and we're promised that it's complete by November. If it changes, don't blame me, because I don't do digging. I don't drive bulldozers, but that's the date that they are showing right now. Another bridge, 24th Street overpass, and this is one that the last council, if you listened in, Rucker Preston is the director of Family Promise, and this is their facility right here on the corner of 24th and Avenue N. This was a pedestrian project. Once they started looking at the bridge, recognized the need to do some improvements on the bridge itself. And you see that inset photo where they're working underneath the bridge to make that improvement. So there was a great opportunity to combine two necessary improvements. So they're moving along. That should be done this spring. May 25 is what they're showing. Veterans Memorial Boulevard. This is First Street down there by the VA complex. You're going to hear a theme. Extending the same cross-section that's down by Temple College, we're moving forward with the same cross-section past the VA, moving north. So it's that divided landscape median boulevard, wider sidewalk on the side. And if you're familiar with the VA, if you've been down there, that's a necessary improvement for the pedestrians, for the veterans that, are out there either in an assisted mobility device, classic wheelchair, or just, crutches and sticks trying to get around. This is much needed. It also includes a drainage component, which is on the other side of Temple College. So you see that inset there, that's that future regional detention area that'll feed into Friars Creek. This one is going through the final review with TxDOT, looking at the designs, getting their blessing, because it is a TxDOT facility. Should go out to contract, out to bid by September. We've got some congressional money on that one, and there is a shot clock that is clicking away. So we're working on getting this one out the door very soon. Then there's 2 more phases from Avenue U, where that CEFCO is going north, and then R to O. So the first phase is just for the congressional money. Phase 2 and 3, we got some more money through the Clean Temple MPO to fund that work. The Georgetown Railroad Hiking Bike Trail Phase 1. The first thing you should know is that the developer for the Triangle Tract, that new townhome mixed-use office complex on the corner of 31st and where the railroad comes out near Deerfield, that developer is working through a developer's participation agreement, cost sharing. They're building the trail next to their development because they're building their development right now. They want to see it done at the same time and not have the disruption once we start our work. That's great because it saves the money for the grant that we got, can be put towards a shorter piece of trail. So that's another one that's currently going through design review with TxDOT. They're at the 90% designs. That includes a pedestrian crossing at 31st Street, getting folks across that 4-lane road for safety, having some flashers, some markings, and a raised median that'll create 2 turn lanes, both for north and south, going into Deerfield and to Bellaterra. So that it'll end up serving two purposes. You'll have a pedestrian refuge in the middle where that raised median channelizes the traffic. It also gives people a chance to pause. And they don't have to sprint across 150 feet of pavement in one go. We've got two roadway improvements that are a little bit further out. They're coming. Hardrick Bluff Road has been coming for a while. They've been working to get the dry utilities relocated. So all your electrical, your telecoms, AT&T and Spectrum. And there's also a traffic signal at the corner of the intersection of 93 and Hardrick Bluff. We've known that's needed for a long time. So that'll be part of this project. Should go out to bid in May. And then North 42nd Street, there's 3 residential developments coming in there. You all saw one of these recently, French Hill on the west side. Oak Ridge, as you see there, one of their future phases, they're still working on that. And then North Creek just to the north over here with this long parcel. Working on the right-of-way acquisition. Part of that is also the sewer infrastructure that's going in with that roadway as the two neighborhoods are built out. So there's some overlap to getting the right of way finalized. And that should go out for bid to start the construction on that one early next year. Moving back to downtown, we've got a project also on 3rd Street, the same TxDOT facility. We had to get what's called a LOSA, a letter of on-system agreement for TxDOT to let us pay for all the work on their bridge. And what we're doing there is taking one of the traveled lanes away, creating a wider pedestrian pathway. And you see the red is the overpass, the gray down here, improving that sidewalk, adding the crosswalks down here at the intersection, and then adding some landscaping on the south side over here, what used to be Pit Stop Barbecue. And just having that much improved pedestrian connection between the neighborhood to the south, across the bridge, and then into downtown. And if you've been around long enough to see that little corner, there was a spot for the longest time where the sidewalk would stop and then there'd be a stretch of grass. We're going to get that fixed. That is anticipated to start 2025. Like I said, we had to do coordination with TxDOT to get that letter of agreement in place and waiting on the permit from the railroad. They again have control of their airspace. So even though all we're doing is widening the street and putting in the wire pedestrian barriers, they still need to give us a permit to do the work above the tracks. So pending BNSF approval, that project will move forward sometime, let's just say soon. Moving north on 3rd Street, this came out of the neighborhood planning process, and they're working on adding sidewalks on 1st Street by Lamar Middle School, connecting to Miller Park where the pond and the walking trails are, and then adding another little trail that will kind of connect over to 3rd Street and then head north with the idea of being a future connection to the Cultural Activities Center and the Mayborn Center. So that's another one. They're working through the designs on that one. That's funded through the city. Once they get the designs finalized and they can move to bid. Right now, they've just given us an anticipated construction date of 2025, but not specific down to the month as of yet. Poison Oak Road, this is the one that we did a couple years ago, added that divided median arterial when the new Charter Oak Elementary School came in. If you've driven that road as it is now, you know that it's a bit of a slalom course. You have to come past the school and make 2 90-degree turns on what's been a narrow rural road for a long time. The project here, as you can see, it's going to continue that wider arterial cross-section, smooth those curves out. We've acquired the right-of-way between those 2 neighborhoods, and then it's just going to go right across to Old Waco Road. So that'll tie in with that future outer loop that I showed you earlier. That one they're anticipating to go out to bid this year. Again, that one they haven't given a specific date yet. It's also worth noting that there's a large electric overhead transmission line through there. So they also have to work with Encore to get the plans approved for what's going underneath the power lines. Avenue C, this one is funded for FY28, so it's a couple years out. But this was another kind of overlap facilitation conversation that we had between Public Works Engineering, our neighborhood planning process, and the members of the congregation for the 8th Street Baptist Church. As we widen that street, it's going to change their parking. But we sat down and had a great conversation with them about, what their needs truly are, what the impacts of the project, are there costs, are there benefits? There are both. How can we minimize the disruption and in such a way that when the project's complete, they've got better access to the church, both from the front and the side and that rear parking lot. So you see that one also has a wider sidewalk that meanders along the south side of Avenue C. Both sides of Avenue C with some landscaping. And it widens that section as well. So the future Outer Loop West Phase 2, this is funded through the reinvestment zone. They're working on the right-of-way acquisition, which are those purple parcels, say that 3 times fast, that you see in the inset on the right. So this one, their preferred alternative that they're working towards is that green alignment. Hits that pinch point where the current Charter Oak Drive goes underneath the overpass, underneath the railroad. So you're going to have a 3-layer overpass at that point. But that really made the most sense. If you're going to build bridges, build one. If you chose one of the other alternatives, you would build a couple of bridges. And that'll come back down to I-35 right there by Twin Cities. Until the right-of-way is complete, and, working on the permission with the railroad overpass, don't have a firm date when that might start yet. That's going to be quite a few years out. And then the last one I'll end with, recently looked at this area for the Leon River Phase 1, which is it's on the consent agenda tonight. The preliminary plat came through a few months back. Now we're at the final plat phase. There's a traffic impact analysis. There's a new residential development that you see on the inset and a new elementary school for TISD. So engineering is looking at both the roadway improvements and the necessary sewer lines that are going to be needed as we see more growth in this area. The roadway that you see, the developer is working on the designs for that. They've received 30% design, so those are in review. And that one is planned for 26. So next year, like I said, we just got the preliminary plat in for this one a couple weeks, met with them for DRC. Recently, we're waiting on some revisions back. So you may see this come to you in the near future for the preliminary plat. And then at some point, the final plats will come in. So a lot going on south of 93, old 95. 2 things to note that I'll wrap up with is those 2 circles that say signalized intersection. So there was a traffic impact analysis that was completed. The signal that comes in first is the one at old 95. There's already a lot of traffic. That's a 4-way intersection there. There's some crash history at that intersection. So that signal comes in soon. The second signal is at the corner of 93 Spur and Cross Timbers Boulevard, which goes into that Leon Reserve subdivision up here. That will come when the neighborhoods are at 55% build out. So until you meet that traffic volume, then the traffic signal becomes required. They typically do not proactively add a signal. You don't change the traffic patterns until it's necessary, is what it boils down to. So a lot going on the south side of town with this project, and you'll see that again in the near future. With that, I'll take a breath, drink some water, and take any questions you may have.
That last one, the 55% build out,
Mhm.
that's built, not sold.
Correct, built, yeah. So once their permits approved, the home's built, certificate of occupancy. Yeah,
Jason.
we'll be tracking that, and so will TxDOT.
Is there a soft copy of that anywhere?
Of the presentation?
Yes.
I'll save a PDF and we can send it out to y'all.
Okay. Yeah, because I'd like to study that a little bit more, but yeah, it's interesting.
Sure.
That's a good basis to go off of and to keep up with. So that's interesting.
And I'll say this, it's just like, being a poker player, have more than you show. I selected out some real, highlight projects. There's some other smaller things that maybe don't have as much of a citywide or regional impact as these projects do. So really wanted to hit the highlights.
Very good.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank y'all.
Questions or comments? Brian, did you have anything else?
Nothing else unless y'all have any questions about
No.
anything going on.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
The volunteers for the invocation and the pledge. Commissioner Morales will give the invocation and Commissioner Rhodes will do the pledge. We will now hear from Kathy in regards to affidavits.
Commissioners, for the record, no affidavits to abstain have been received for this meeting. Is this correct? Thank you.
Is there any additional business? If not, the work session is closed.